Yeah,
All right. Hi, my name is Jesse,
I'm Jacob, and
and
we're
we did Antigone, but in a
out.
modernized setting. Hmm. Oh, there we go. Background. The date of creation exactly is unknown. It was first believed to be performed in Athens in 441 BCE. In the appraisal, from the time itself, any relics or awards have been long lost, but it's widely believed Sophocles was one of the greatest artists of his time and playwriters, so we can assume it had very vast levels of success. This is the third play in the trilogy, coming after both of the Oedipus ones, Oedipus the King and Oedipus at Colonus. And around 60 years prior to this play being written, democracy was first introduced to Athens successfully, and it's believed to be the one of the first democracies to exist anywhere. So that was a pretty big event. And it was also the time of the classic age in Greece, which was a lot of arts and literature. And the Peloponnesian War had ended about 4 years prior to the play being written. So that definitely had some influence. The background of Sophocles, one of three Greek tragedians whose plays lived on throughout time. He had seven full plays survive all the way to today. And he was also the imperial treasurer from 443 to 442 BCE in Athens, only for a year, but it helped the Delian Confederacy establish themselves. And he began writing at 16 years old after he won a competition in Athens in 468 BCE. Synopsis. The Greek tragedy of Antigone takes place in Thebes, and the conflict revolves around Antigone herself, the daughter of Oedipus, and her uncle Creon. She disobeys her uncle by trying to bury her brother who fought against Thebes and died fighting his brother Polynices. Creon believes Polynices was a traitor and should have no burial, while Antigone thinks it was kind of the law of gods to do a burial for a family member. And this play looks at themes of duty to family, loyalty, family itself, and justice, and also what is right. Some of the key info: Oedipus is Antigone's father, who was exiled from Thebes, and his two sons, as I mentioned earlier, are Eteocles and Polynices, who die fighting. And Creon became the new ruler after their deaths, and there stood a prophecy that predicted that Oedipus' sons would kill each other, and Antigone and Ismene would die too. Some of the quotes that we chose will I will bury him myself, and even if I die in the act, that death will be a glory. This is kind of Antigone, her strong-headedness and strong-mindedness. It is not reason never to yield to reason. This kind of ties into the chorus trying to speak to Creon in a sense and saying he needs to reason with himself, which he doesn't. And then all men make mistakes, but a good man yields when he knows his course is wrong and repairs the evil of the only crime is pride, which is Tiresias also talking to Creon somewhat about his pride blinding him. And then the Peripeteia, Anagnorisis, and Hamartia. The Peripeteia would be when Creon regrets his decisions and realizes everything he did led to the deaths of his son and his wife and everyone he loved. The Anagnorisis would be when he acknowledges he was wrong to defy the gods and to defy Antigone. And then the Hamartia would be his excessive pride, which ended up being his downfall.
All right, and the chorus is the first group we kept in. It's a group of actors that comment on the play, and they play a significant role with their voices, views, because like with the citizens of Thebes, they represent them too, help represent them. And they also enhance the dramatic effect of the play and give a different perspective on the play that the characters aren't capable of giving because they're able to give a view from the outside in. Creon is another character kept because he's a stubborn, authoritative character that has to balance his priorities with his family for the patriotism of the state. Because he has his things with like Antigone and everything. Of course, he's Antigone's uncle, Haman's father, and Eurydice's husband. It's important to note, though, that Creon, since he is the main antagonist of the play, he would not be in conflict without him. Haman, he is a compassionate one towards Antigone, and he tries to reason with his father to save Antigone because he's, of course, in love with Antigone since that's his fiance, and he wants to save the life of Antigone. He is important to include since he is Creon's son, and he's the only one that is capable of reasoning with his own father. And then the last character we decided to include and keep in the play was Tiresias, since he's the wise, what is he called? Blanking out on what he is.
Prophet.
Yes, he's a wise prophet that gives another insight view into the other characters, and he's the one that's able to give Creon his warning of his downfall that Creon, of course, doesn't see in the time.
First symbol we chose was Antigone's dead brother himself and Polynices. We said it was a symbol of tension between human law and divine law, and we said it was the cause of the main conflict since Polynices committed treason but Antigone feels that his crime of treason isn't enough to not bury him, which is evident from the quote. But I will bury him, and if I must die, I say that this crime is holy. I shall lie down with him in death, and shall be as dear to him as he is to me. The blind prophet Tiresias was our second symbol. We said himself he was a symbol of prophecy in the future, while showing the dangers of stubbornness because he warns Creon of his future downfall many times, but Creon always ignores him. As he said before, think all men make mistakes, but a good man yields when he knows his course is wrong and repairs the evil. And then the cave. We said that was another symbol. The cave that Antigone's prison is imprisoned in, excuse me, for her disobedience. We said it was a literal darkness and isolation, kind of like her in life, being the only one who really wants to rescue her brother and bury him. She's kind of isolated and completely in the dark. And some of the major themes, conflict between loyalty and law is one. Oh, and throughout the play, Antigone can't decide between following the laws of gods or laws of man. And Creon believes that Polynices is a traitor who deserves nothing. But like we said before, Antigone believes that it's still her honor-bound duty as his sister to bury him. Another one of the major themes, as we said before, the consequence of pride. Creon's pride blinds him and he refuses to listen to others, which leads to his downfall. And he can't really blame anyone but himself. He believed his laws were the only things that meant anything important to anyone. And then the last theme is inescapable fate. Despite everything Antigone does to avoid the prophecy and the way it was foretold, it does lead to her own death and the death of her sister and the death of Haman as well. This is all suggests that there was ultimately nothing she could have done to avoid this, which is why we included it as a theme. And then the setting, the city of Thebrophia. We said the city's divided into zones in our new movie, elite, business, residential, and outcast zones. President Creon rules the land with an iron fist in our new world, which is a city in the clouds, as you can see from our photo. And then one of our new characters that'll be introduced shortly is Katniss. She's torn between her elite family and wanting equality for those in the lower zones, and movement between the zones is monitored by the government.
And then Katniss is the first new character we included in the play, and we tried to compare her more similar to Antigone, since she takes that main role that rebels against the government, and she is the main. Yeah, she leads the rebellion against who we now have as President Creon, rather than who he was then in the other play.
Oh, there you go.
Our following character, the new one we added, was Moana from, of course, the movie Moana. And she tries to prevent a tragedy similar to how she did at the end of the movie in actual Moana. She tried to prevent a tragedy, and how in this tries to how Eurydice had tried to prevent a tragedy as well. And in a new movie, Moana will attempt to stop Katniss from finding the body to save her, and it shows like her compassionate traits in attempting to prevent the tragedy from occurring. And our final new character we added was Anna from Frozen, who was the sister to the main character's name in Frozen, and she tries to protect her sister, similar to how Ismene did in actual Antigone. And this is in the new film. Anna from Frozen will attempt to save her sister and protect her, which her sister will be Katniss Everdeen. And then these are our themes with the shadows of the Brophia, with Polynices trying to overthrow the government and help the outcast zone. I could not speak today.
That's all right.
Died in the Battle of Tosalis, and Creon orders that Polly body is left in the outcast zone to rot. However, Katniss does not agree with this and attempts to rescue mission to bury her brother. The peripeia is that Katniss is apprehended when attempting to get her brother's body from the outcast zone. The agnosis is Creon realizes Haman is truly torn between himself and his true love, Katniss Everdeen, which this realization gets Creon where his loyalties clearly lied at the end. And the Hamartia is Creon's pride to the president with all of his power. And then the few symbols in it are the first symbol being Harmony Park, which that's where the elites are, and that's the residence of the elites. This represents both the illusion of unity and underlying social issues with the Brophia. In the story, the park serves as an area where people gather before they ultimately rebel against King Creon. And the second symbol is Polynesius's body, and this represents Creon's ruthless rule of law, as well as a reminder to the lower zone of what will happen to them should they attempt a rebellion. The body is also the main catalyst of all events in our new movie. And the last one is Terbofia's surveillance system, since it's a modern version of the Sentry, which follows the law and is considered part of the villain team.
And then our first theme would be loyalty versus law. This would show the battles in the war Katniss has against the elites in her movie, struggling to lead the outcast zone against the upper zones. And she should be fighting for Creon technically, but the law is not necessarily always just. And we would show that in our film by having Katniss on the outcast side. The second theme would be pride. In our film, he would be lacking to see a plan coming from the outcasts and underestimate their intelligence, and he would basically think they weren't skilled enough to pull it off, and it would end up being his downfall in our movie. And then the last theme we would show is the inescapable fate, which is like kind of the first one, that Polonice's body is never truly saved in our film. We would kind of leave it there in the outcast zone is kind of an idea that it would be lost to the sands of time, and that fate is bound by no rule or law and lasts forever. And then see, these are some of our sources. And then the soundtrack that we decided to use would be I Fought the Law with the Bobby Fuller Four, because we feel that that really fits with Katniss's personality and she's rising up against the government. And then Revolution by the Beatles is a song that we feel would really resonate with all the people of the outcast zone, because like the Beatles, they're a super popular group that everyone really got into of all classes. So we feel that it's a good song for them to unite behind. And that's it. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.